really excited to first get through Q4, but obviously thinking a lot about CES right around the corner. I think what's interesting, it was probably a year ago now, if I think about it, CES being this important marker in time for our industry, where we really started talking about the idea of leveraging these signals in more interesting and meaningful ways. And so a year later, I think it's important to recognize the degree to which things have evolved. We are literally seeing, I would say, a revolution in how context IDs are being leveraged to better identify what it is the advertisers are ultimately looking to connect with. We have, I think, varied signals when it comes to audience, but using the context signals that are now becoming more robust and I would say reliable through valuable vendor partners that we have certainly on our platform, the likes of which include Gracenote through their TMS IDs. We're able to make these really interesting, meaningful connections that I think augment the quality that are, and the connections really that we're able to provide for marketers to the audiences that they're looking to align with. And so at CES, I think we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more engagement in that context and in that regard. And the value here ultimately is outcomes. And so always kind of rooting the dialogue in that. But I think there's been this progression, and I think that's really what we're going to see surface in conversations coming up in a relatively short period, just about a month from now at CES. So that's what I'm mostly excited about. We really want to get our marketers on side with the capabilities and the opportunities they have to leverage these contextual signals in a way that we think is going to be extremely valuable for their campaigns.
And so when it comes to CTV, how do you see contextual signals playing out? Do you see that as significantly important, growing in importance? And is the recognition there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely critical. In CTV, there are inherent challenges with the reliability and consistency of signals, and the ability to abstract away from those more audience-based signals to a more contextual-based signal, I think creates the opportunity for a better experience, frankly. If we think about, and these were examples that actually came up over the course of the panels that we saw today, the mindset of a user or a consumer when they're watching a football game is rather specific. And so you can imagine serving a Doritos ad when you're watching that game. There's this degree of receptivity that I think is incredibly unique. And the marketer's opportunity to kind of capture that emotional sort of condition is really powerful. And that's where I think about the value of context. Be it sports or be it any other kind of form of context, aligning a marketer's message in that particular setting, in that particular moment, is really, really powerful.
Really want to stay with the power of contextual for the moment, particularly as the industry continues to grapple with signal loss and the decline of people-based identifiers. Wanted to know, how is contextual data helping advertisers preserve relevance, receptivity, I think, is in line with that, and precision in CTV?
Yeah, I think there are challenges out there that we need to acknowledge that can potentially limit or constrain the ability to maximize the value of a message that a marketer is attempting to deliver to a consumer. And whether it's the fragmentation or the inconsistency around the signals and the schemas that are being leveraged to apply kind of conventional audience-based targeting, when we have the opportunity to leverage program-level contextual insights, it dramatically, I would say, elevates the quality of those engagements or those moments that are being created, and that in and of itself is creating, I think, really meaningful lift, as we've seen in some of the studies that we've done. And there's also other opportunities that we can leverage through these signals. I think again of Gracenote, being able to leverage their do not air and allow list capabilities. And so even in those more kind of rudimentary applications, we see the value of the kind of, and the capabilities that we can kind of apply by thinking a little bit differently about context and how it can be used. And I think it's critical to acknowledge that these capabilities are a function of really elegantly integrated relationships between the supply itself for index that exists within our marketplace offering, and all of the partners, be it an Iris or a Gracenote or any others that are availing their data in a really frictionless and seamless way, so that marketers can kind of activate and create these connections in a again, a really elegant and seamless way.
Alex, I also wanted to touch on the idea that achieving true data standardization and program level transparency in bid requests has been something that clearly is wanted, but how close are we actually to solving those problems, and what's the possibility right now?
I mean, we are making incredible strides. I would say that everything that I'm talking about in terms of what we're doing today with the partners that I've mentioned, and certainly others, is happening today. These are campaigns that are live, they're in the wild, and again, we're seeing incredible results. We have to be very cautious and aware that they adhere to regulation and policies, and so we can't just, we're not Wild West here, to be clear. We need to be very, very respectful of the guardrails that exist. VPPA, of course, is an important example of that, because those regulations exist in such a way that kind of like limit or constrain, and so we have to respect those constraints. That being said, the capabilities that we have today, which are readily available, are incredibly powerful, and we're continuing to see more and more adoption and use of them because they generate results.
Alex, private marketplaces are becoming much more sophisticated as they evolve. How does context now play into building creative, high-performing deals that actually deliver on quality and engagement?
Again, I think it comes back to potentially modifying the conventional approach to how we think about deal and deal construction. Obviously, through our platform, we've created these really helpful dynamics through the marketplace that bring buyer and seller together. And so there's obviously a willingness on both parties' parts to kind of engage in this manner. The publisher's willingness to kind of avail program level, but even going down to actual scene level. The level of sophistication and granularity is really, really impressive now. And so all of that is coming to bear within the context of deals. Deals are ultimately the mechanism by which all of this is being transacted. That's critical for two reasons. One, obviously, is the transparency that is sort of inherent and implied in these transactions. And two is the control. Control for certainly the publisher, ensuring that the inventory that is being made available and the corresponding signals adhere to the pricing, and of course the regulatory requirements that I mentioned, and then ultimately providing the buyer the value, and again, once again, as I've mentioned, the outcomes that are aligned to their brands and their marketers' expectations. All of these things happen by virtue of a really kind of open and transparent deal ID mechanic.